Good evening and welcome back to another episode of The Longing. Today we're going to be continuing to read King Pest. I forgot the name of it then for a minute. But it's fine. I remembered it eventually. So, let's crack on. Fronting him, sixthly and lastly, was situated a singularly stiff-looking personage, who, being afflicted with paralysis, must, to speak seriously, have felt very ill at ease in his unaccommodating habiliments. He was habited, somewhat uniquely, in a new and handsome mahogany coffin, its top or headpiece pressed upon the skull of the wearer, and extended over it in the fashion of a hood, giving to the entire face an air of indescribable interest. Armholes had been cut in the sides for the sake not more of elegance than of convenience, but the dress, nevertheless, prevented its proprietor from sitting as erect as his associates. As he lay reclining against his trestle, at an angle of 45 degrees, a pair of huge goggle eyes rolled up their awful whites towards the ceiling in absolute amazement at their own enormity. Before each of the party lay a portion of a skull, which was used as a drinking cup. Overhead was suspended a human skeleton, by means of a rope tied round one of the legs and fastened to a ring in the ceiling. The other limb, confined by no such fetter, stuck off from the body at right angles, causing the whole loose and rattle frame to dangle and twirl about at the caprice of every occasional puff of wind which found its way into the apartment. In the cranium of this hideous thing lay quantity of ignited charcoal, which threw a fitful but vivid light over the entire scene, while coffins and other wares appertaining to the shop of an undertaker were piled high up around the room and against the windows, preventing any ray from escaping into the street. At sight of this extraordinary assembly, and of their still more extraordinary paraphernalia, our two seamen did not conduct themselves with that degree of decorum which might have been expected. Leggs, leaning against the wall near which he happened to be standing, dropped his lower jaw still lower than usual, and spread open his eyes to their fullest extent, while Hugh Tarpaulin, stooping down so as to bring his nose upon a level with the table, and spreading out a palm upon either knee, burst into a long, loud, and obstreperous roar of very ill-timed and immoderate laughter. Without, however, taking offence at behaviour so excessively rude, the tall president smiled very graciously upon the intruders, nodded to them in a dignified manner with his head of sable plumes, and arising took each by an arm, and led him to a seat which some others of the company had placed in the meantime for his accommodation. Leggs to all this offered not the slightest resistance, but sat down as he was directed, while the gallant Hugh, removing his coffin trestle from its station near the head of the table, to the vicinity of the little consumptive lady in the winding sheet, plumped down by her side in high glee, and pouring out a scull of red wine, quaffed it to their better acquaintance. But at this presumption the stiff gentleman in the coffin seemed exceedingly nettled, and serious consequences might have ensued, had not the president, rapping upon the table with his truncheon, diverted the attention of all present to the following speech. "It becomes our duty upon the present happy occasion—" "Avast there," interrupted Leggs, looking very serious. "Avast there a bit, I say, and tell us who the devil ye all are, and what business ye have here. Rigged off like the foul fiends and swilling the snug blue ruin stowed away for the winter by my honest shipmate, Will Wimble the undertaker." At this unpardonable piece of ill-breeding, all the original company half started to their feet, and uttered the same rapid succession of wild fiendish shrieks which had before caught the attention of the seamen. The president, however, was the first to recover his composure, and at length, turning to Leggs with great dignity, recommenced. "Most willingly we gratify any reasonable curiosity on the part of guests so illustrious, unbidden though they be. Know then that in these dominions I am monarch, and here rule with undivided empire under the title of King Pest the First. This apartment, which you no doubt profanely suppose to be the shop of Will Wimble the Undertaker, a man whom we know not, and whose plebeian appellation has never before this night thwarted our royal ears. This apartment, I say, is the dais chamber of our palace, devoted to the councils of our kingdom, and to other sacred and lofty purposes. The noble lady who sits opposite is Queen Pest, our serene consort. The other exalted personages whom you behold are all of our family, and wear the insignia of the blood royal under the respective titles of His Grace the Archduke Pestiferous, and His Grace the Duke Pestilential, His Grace the Duke Tempest, and a Serene Highness the Archduchess Anapest. As regards, continued he, your demand of the business upon which we sit here in council, we might be pardoned for replying that it concerns, and concerns alone, our own private and regal interest, and is in no manner important to any other than ourself. But in consideration of those rights to which, as guests and strangers, you may feel yourselves entitled, we will furthermore explain that we are here this night, prepared by deep research and accurate investigation, to examine, analyze, and thoroughly determine the indefinable spirit, the incomprehensible qualities and nature of those inestimable treasures of the palate, the wines, ales, and liquors of this goodly metropolis, by so doing to advance not more our own designs than the true welfare of that unearthly sovereign whose reign is over us all, whose dominions are unlimited, and whose name is Death. Whose name is Davy Jones, ejaculated Tarpaulin, helping the lady by his side to a scull of liqueur, and pouring out a second for himself. Profane varlet, said the President, now turning his attention to the worthy Hugh. Profane and execrable... I don't know how to say that word. Execrable wretch, I'm sorry. We have said that in consideration of those rights which, even in thy filthy person, we feel no inclination to violate, we have I'm struggling with these words. We have condescended to make reply to thy rude and unseasonable inquiries. We nevertheless, for your unhallowed intrusion upon our counsels, believe it our duty to mulct thee and thy companion in each a gallon of blackstrap, having imbibed which to the prosperity of our kingdom. At a single draught, and upon your bended knees, ye shall be forthwith free to either proceed upon your way, or remain and be admitted to the privileges of our table, according to your respective and individual pleasures. It would be a matter of utter impossibility, replied Legges, whom the assumptions and dignity of King Pest I had evidently inspired some feelings of respect, and who arose and steadied himself by the table as he spoke. It would please your Majesty be a matter of utter impossibility to stow away in my hold even 1/4 part of the same liquor which your Majesty has just mentioned, to say nothing of the stuffs placed on board in the forenoon by way of ballast, and not to mention the various ales and liqueurs shipped this evening at different seaports. I have at present a full cargo of humming stuff taken in and duly paid for at the sign of the Jolly Tar. You will therefore, please your Majesty, be so good as to take the will for the deed, and for by no manner of means either can I or will I swallow another drop, least of all a drop of that villainous bilge water that answers to the hall of black strap. Belay that, interrupted Tarpaulin, astonished not more at the length of his companion's speech than at the nature of his refusal. Belay that, you tubber, and I say, Legges, none of your palaver. My hull is still light, although I confess you yourself seem to be a little top-heavy, and as for the matter of your share of the cargo, why, rather than raise a squall, I would find stowage room for it myself. But this proceeding, interposed the President, is by no means in accordance with the terms of the mulct or sentence, which is in its nature median, and not to be altered or recalled. The conditions we have imposed must be fulfilled to the letter, and that without a moment's hesitation, in failure of which fulfilment we decree that you do here be tied neck and heels together, and duly drowned as rebels in yon hogshead of October beer. And with that, we actually are going to end the episode there. We only have 4 pages left, but it's a few too many to fit into this episode. So, I am going to say thank you very much for joining me today. There were a few words in that I struggled to say. We will be back tomorrow. No, what is it? Thank you for joining me today. I hope you all have a wonderful morning, evening, afternoon, or night. No matter what time of day it is, I hope you all have a wonderful one of it. And as always, we will be back tomorrow for more of The Longing. Goodbye.